I've been involved into energy area for about over 40 years, and what I have here on the screen, 5G, the baseline platform for development of smart grid technologies in Ukraine in energy. I want to say that I'm fully support the idea of 5G in energy. We can talk about the development of electric energy sector and why it can't develop without 5G. It can exist for some time, but won't be able to develop without 5G. So please check it out. According to the focus of the International Energy Agency, by 2030, the electric power consumption will double, which requires the increase of generation, distribution, transmission. And can we, over 10 years, build so many power plants and transmit that big amount of power? The energy sector of 21st century is showing and is looking for trends like resilience, accessibility, security, reliability, and these elements are mandatory, they're key. What we have today, the capacity of power grids, capacities are not sufficient. The number of small-scale power generations can disrupt the resilience. You know that we have 35,000 solar power plants, and there are increasingly more developing and emerging, and that leads to disruption because the dispatchers don't know what kind of power, how many elements of power those solar power plants have. But we need to ensure the balance because you need to produce as much electricity as it is consumed. So that leads to the fact that so many processes lead to some stalemate. And we need to decide what needs to be done in development of the power electricity. There are three characteristics of the modern electricity: intellect, so intellectual systems, system-wide approach, so technologies of comprehensive regulation, technologies, accumulation of power plant, decentralization, and new generation of power plant, and environmentalization, the third pillar. If you want me to sum up, I would say that the concept of innovative transformation of electricity sector requires a fully integrated, self-regulated and self-renewable system that includes all types of generation, trunk and distribution networks that are managed by a single network in real-time mode. Now, the question is that possible without 5G? I can't imagine how you can do that possibly without 5G, but we must start already doing that. So this intellectualization of electricity, once again, what I mean by saying intellect, intellectualization. Let's imagine there is a big system, comprehensive system with a lot of sensors, and sensors inform about all the processes. This information is stored, analyzed, and the system can make decision what needs to be done. Also, such an intellectual system can forecast the actions of the whole system or individual elements for some time in the future. And that would ensure the most level, the highest level of efficiency of the entire system. So there is a urgent need to move to new type of energy systems with new qualities. Quality number one is managing processes in real time. I don't think it is possible without 5G because the processes, I mean the process of electric and mechanical, these processes are very fast, and the decisions need to be made fast. And there are automation tools, decentralized tools that can operate locally. And I mean that we need to be able to manage complex systems in a complex way. And we need absolutely different style of control. The development of transportation of electricity to long distances, development of technologies for accumulation of electricity, and development of generation, decentralized generation, all the processes cannot possibly develop without 5G. To assess the level of the use of intellect in the world, the term smart grid is used. So it's self-monitoring analysis and reporting technology. So it's a self-controlling, self-analyzing and reporting technology. So I like these prepared by the US corporation. So once again, it's a fully automated energy system that ensures two-way flow of electric energy and information between electric stations and devices. And they talk about two-way flow, between electric power plants and the devices, between consumers and generators, between networks and consumers. With the use of advanced technologies, instruments, and methods, the smart grid fills the electric energy sector with knowledge that help to dramatically increase the efficiency of the electric system in general, of the electric grid. In the whole world, the energy sector is moving towards this goal. I work in university, I teach the smart grid technologies in the electric power sectors. I've been doing that for 3 years, and I also teach in Polish university in Warsaw. I also deliver the course there on how the electric power system is going to develop with help of smart grid approach. So this is how we see modern power generation, power sector. It's gonna everything's gonna be connected. Generation, distribution, they're gonna be connected. Everything that generates, transmits, and consumes electricity, that's gonna be operating within one single concept. This is the illustration of these two-way flows. This control center here, can it control the entire system, which is very slow? You can't do that. You can do that only with 5G. The Americans calculated, based on the Colorado state data, they took the time from 20 to 25 and looked at the efficiency of smart grids, the electricity consumption, the capacity, the reduction of consumption during the peak loads, CO2 emissions and everything. So you can see the right with these technologies. If we talk about smart grid for power industry, the following are the properties that are added: self-restoration in emergency. So the end consumer with his electric car, for example, because imagine how many electric systems in cars we're going to have in our country. So if you plan to drive about 100 kilometers and your accumulators have been charged for 400, 500 kilometers. So if you connect the system, your car, to the grid can kind of borrow the remaining electricity because it may need it for the entire grid, and it can pay you for this capacity. Next one is resistance to negative influences, reliability and quality of electricity, diversity of electrical plants, and so on. So, I mean, the experts who understand these points that I'm making will tell you that it is impossible to do it with 4G, because you need a system that gives you faster huge amounts of data. Without 5G, it is impossible to reach all those goals in the power industry. 5G enables you to transmit the data fast to the system, respond to incidents, helps you to forecast different situations, helps to promptly detect theft or losses of electricity. So we can talk a lot about that, but 5G really helps, in particular, reduce the cost of electricity transmission. We can reduce the tariffs, electricity, the cost of electricity, helps to radically increase the reliability of electric supplies and quality. It helps to diversify the power generation too. I can say also that we understand that we are in the situation when bit manages what. The Internet of Things, your technologies you know about, they are being introduced a lot, and we in our university where I work, we have a lot of researchers to train students, because the students know the new technologies, and they can be trained on the use of these technologies in the modern world. So the energy expert, if he graduates from the school and goes to work at a plant, the first question he's going to ask is where the Internet of Things at your facility. The power industry is being digitalized in the whole world, and these advanced technologies are being introduced vastly. A couple of examples how the Internet of Things is introduced in the energy. The meters that send data to the supplier, so without the human factor. The operator can control the equipment of a power plant and address problems or failures. It can calculate, it can plan repairs. The system of centers helps to monitor and control the workloads and the capacities on the in the network. Modern networks are going to be diverse, and their configuration will be able to change fast, and the network needs to adapt fast with due regard to the losses of electricity or excess. But that's possible only with modern technologies, and modern technologies can happen only with 5G. With AI, we can get this electricity and power system that can be operated in real time. That's our ultimate goal. We have the term that we call it digital substation. We don't say say digital substation now, which is an electricity substation that has digital technology installed. You can see the whole load of this whole load of these kind of clusters here, as you see. They're going to be replaced with the picture to your right, because everything they do can be done with help of algorithms. So those computers can perform those functions that were performed earlier with these relay systems for automated switch on, switch off and everything. As an example, 2 years ago, Siemens produced this transformer. Without 5G, this transformer is not going to work. Why? Because look at that. 2,300 different sensors within this transformer. And those sensors provide data, and the kind of system understands what's going on with the transformer. It can project its actions and prevent emergencies. So this huge flow of information, and that's only from one transformer. I assure you that that's not going to work without 5G. Smart micro networks, virtual power plant, and smart micro grid are the terms that have recently emerged. Just look at this slide. My students are developing this micro grid. It's small settlements with quite wealthy people living there, so they buy a number of wind farms or solar power plants, and they provide electricity autonomously to this settlement. So there are red dots here. These are commutation devices, and this center here below gets information from every single unit of this network, this grid, and the technology that we have today, thanks to 5G, will enable this control center to really control that kind of system. So every consumer gets a tariff that can change many times, hundreds of times during the day, because those electricity flows can change, the load may change, and the system will be adapting to lose as few energy as possible. And that's why the tariffs can change for every household. The question is that possible without 5G? I would say this is really a big question. At the same time, the whole world is moving towards the establishment of these microgrid systems. This is the future. AR, VR technologies in electricity systems. It's kind of hard. I'm not going to talk about that a lot. There are a lot of experts on these AR and VR in electricity. As an example, I've got a video here. How a modern engineer can be trained today with VR technologies. These are the 2 students you can see. They are learning how to provide services to a substation or electricity power station, and we work with Camp of Technology, this company. So we have already those VR glasses, and thanks to these VR technologies, we can do the following. So the student can watch this video first and then put the VR glasses on, and then can, do the switches, do the switch off or switch ons. You need to do that properly, obviously, because otherwise people can die or equipment will be fully damaged if you do something wrong. You can teach them with real facilities, and that's what they're going to do too. But you need to first to train them hundreds of times with these kind of VR technologies. But that's possible only if we have modern technologies. If we talk about production, especially when we talk about high-tech equipment, where super modern technologies are used, the 5G, that's going to be very much important there too, because the speed of transmission of information from a huge amount of data and controlling those situations real-time mode, this is the objective number one. The most important thing is that we can build those digital twins, as they're called. This can be some machines, as you can see, with turbine or electric motors, engines or generators. And I remember this time when Chernobyl disaster happened. If we had those technologies back then, if we could have built this twin for the Chernobyl power plant to do those exercises with the virtual twin, we would have avoided the disaster in Chernobyl. So this is a harsh example, but I mean that those technologies will help to avoid a huge amount of disasters or failures. They will help to address a lot of engineering objectives. Robotics, everything is being introduced today. DTEC has a lot of robots today that serve the transmission lines, and they don't have 5G, and that's why they can't use them to full capacity. Look at the global expenditure assessment. From 18 to 25, increased 2.7 times. In global market for industrial robotics, they increased it 2.8 times. Assessment of global expenses on AR, VR solutions, look at 53 times increase. Assessment of global market for system of digital twins, like 14 times increase. And these are global data. Coming back to training of energy experts. Look at the number of courses that our modern energy experts attend at universities. Energy independence, digital technologies, quality management, VR technologies, microgrid systems on territorial communities. So we need to provide this knowledge based on 5G technologies today. And talk to you at the end about meta world, meta space. And this is very important, or very much important, obviously. It enables to teach a course like 250 students simultaneously. Everyone can be in the kind of classroom virtually, and this enables to organize the studies very efficiently, and that enables to conduct webinars on the electricity or 5G also in very efficient way. At the end, I want to say the last very important thing. I want to talk to you about cybersecurity. When we talk about 5G, about electricity sector, 5G is certainly issue number one. But issue number 1A is the cybersecurity, because some perpetrators can obviously try to attack those systems and disrupt the operation of the whole country. That's why the cybersecurity is very much important for us. Thank you for your attention. Lilia, I can't hear you. Thank you for your interesting presentation and for coming to this point that the electricity sector cannot possibly develop without 5G. I think we can communicate this message to the decision makers, because in the morning, mobile operators told us that they had doubts about 5G, that the consumers are not ready, that the devices are sold only, I mean, they're produced only by two producers. And for us, it was clear that 5G would be appropriate for industrial critical infrastructure facilities, and the failure to ensure security for those facilities, that would be really a big crime, because that would lead to losses for national security. That's my view.
Дякую за цю квінтесенцію того,
So thank you
що
very much indeed for this brief overview of what is happening in the Minister of Energy, responsible for digital transformation of the energy sector. So let's ask him if he agrees with you or has anything to juxtapose. Yeah, as a former government manager. Welcome everyone, and thank you for this presentation. The smart grid questions are highly relevant these days, and I think we're catching up with other countries in terms of implementation. In 2023, Ukrainian grids will have to be merged with EU grids that already use smart grid technology for the most part. And this is all about improving efficiency. The biggest problem in energy is balancing supply and demand. And, the human factor, whether we want it or not, just keeps and holds us back. So automation can drastically improve the efficiency of the entire system from generation to consumption, and it's a win-win situation for everyone, for suppliers, for consumers, for government-owned companies, for privately held companies, and it will create a strong impetus for the economy, because obviously our economy is built on energy. Every service, every product you buy, there's a share of energy that went into creation or delivery of that thing or service. So the more efficient we are in terms of our energy, the better the economy is doing, obviously. So yeah, and thank you for your segue into cybersecurity, by the way. So let me give you some numbers first. So as of January 21, the global population is 7.8 billion people. 56%, almost 57%, live in cities or in urban setting, which means that more than a half of global population receive centralized utility services, energy, heating, water, etc., which is convenient. You don't have to build your own grid. You don't have to drill your own well, etc. So this is all about comfort. It's attractive, and numbers confirm that everyone's connecting to the internet. 59.9% of people on the planet are connected to the internet. So, these are pretty interesting numbers. More than a half of the global population is online. More than a half of Earth population use internet for their own purposes, leisure or work, and doesn't matter. Another interesting stat: 4 hours, 10 minutes. This is how much these people spend on their phones. I mean, even online, online every day. So out of these four numbers, about a half of that time is just communication, texting, messaging. That's on global average. So all of those internet connected people altogether spend 4 hours of their lives every day, half of a regular workday. So yeah, they spend all this time online. They're now on Zoom as well, participating in various conferences, which I think the pandemics helped orchestrate. So there are five biggest platforms that people use. Predominantly four are owned by Mark Zuckerberg. The fifth one is Google. Then you have WeChat, a number of Chinese messengers, let's call them that way. So you've got American companies, Chinese companies, right? We don't have any Ukrainian companies there, unfortunately. And there are many more interesting stats. And another thing that's of interest is, how much people trust in these technologies, spending so much time online. How do you measure this trust? And I think the only common denominator, whether we want to, trust or do not want to trust those technologies, is, pretty much people paying money online, for products. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to data, personal data, the public opinion is divided. Some people just don't really care much, but then all people care about their money, right? So when you put your card number online on a website, that speaks volumes, about your confidence and your trust in the technology, in the system. So uh, as of the end of this year, as of last month, 80% of all internet users made at least one purchase online. So that just tells you how much people trust in the system. And obviously, yeah, people are becoming more aware of various threats to their personal data safety, including through social messengers, social media, etc. So yeah. So half of all the people have these concerns, right? Have concerns and are not quite certain whether their data is being misused or abused, so they have concerns that it may be abused. But statistics is something that is very hard to argue with. But so if you look at statistics, by the end of 2019, 9 out of 10 companies in Spain become subject of a major cyber attack. So that is, I think in 2021 this number is way higher. Now, when it comes to compromising personal data, just didn't have the chance to come up with some slides, but it's all online. So in 2016, 1.4 billion personal data records have been leaked and abused. And in 2019, this number grew to 4.5 billion. So I mean, we're the only limit is the number of people connected to the internet, pretty much. So next year, the statistics is going to rise, right? So we can safely say that each year personal data gets compromised, and I think we can call ourselves lucky if we don't get our data compromised. So yeah, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. So especially looking at the recent news, we can safely say that the challenges are only beginning, because what we've had before that was that was it wasn't serious yet. So now, given all that, given that more than half of Earth's population live in urban setting, and given the fact that more than half of the people on Earth are connected to internet, and obviously energy now becomes a major issue, because without energy we cannot enjoy this urban lifestyle, we cannot enjoy online communications, all those things that have pushed the civilization forward so much over the last 50 years or so. So yeah, we are risking losing the most critical piece of the modern world puzzle, basically. So the energy community, back in 2016, no, even earlier than that, in 2018, they issued recommendations regarding energy companies and major operators, right? And that they could not use any sort of outsourced services, right? Including providers. And I mean, it sounded pretty, internet providers. It sounded pretty weird. How can you not use, outsourced services, right? Yeah, I mean, you can have your own in-house uh, programmers, IT techs and all that, but and then yeah, and the report had pretty much covered the networks as well. So and that was kind of strange. And then in after some time passed, and in 2021, this recommendation was set to become mandatory, but the COVID uh, delayed that process, fortunately. However, the issue of basically setting up your own infrastructure, it remains pretty irrelevant. And speaking of 5G technology, and speaking of smart grids, and here's what here is what I brought. 2 books to, and I'll leave them here with the organizers. It's I mean, it's not a new book, but it's a brilliant book nevertheless. So yeah, and I would like these books to be presented by Leah to our best members of the audience. So smart grid is a must-have technology. So if you want to implement smart grids, and if you want your smart grids to be cyber secure, yes, you have. I mean, what Volodymyr said there, I totally agree with this. Corporate 5G could be a solution, a way out of the situation. It creates additional advantages, and and although 20 256K uh, could uh, we know that the more the better. I mean, I have 1 gigabit internet back home, and it looks like it's not going to be enough for much longer. And understandably, it will take some time for the market to adjust itself, to get itself ready. But technologies develop at such a rapid pace. People are considering colonizing Mars already, but and and and, and understandably, 5G is a today's issue. It's a technology of today. Volodymyr wanted to say something. Yeah. I mean, Yevgen said some very interesting things. We are energy sector experts. We're on the same side. Thank you for that. Okay, so let's go back to 1977. Nobody remembers that. Nobody can recall that. But I was a fourth-year student, and we heard that New York City experienced a blackout, a 24-hour long blackout. And it's just incredible. Go on Wikipedia and look it up. New York's 1977 blackout. Right? It's unspeakable. So these modern technologies can prevent these major disasters. Because if your cybersecurity is not up to the task, you will experience these types of problems.
Володимире Вікторович, тут ситуація в наступному.
Vladimir.
Як може і створити сама оцю проблему, і в тому числі створити і блекаут? Дійсно,
Yeah, blackouts can happen, and I mean, like, these technologies can result in blackouts.
хоча б основ кібербезпеки
So looking at the current curriculum for our energy sector students, in schools and universities, they don't focus on cybersecurity much. Understandably, this training has to focus on safety and correct procedures in many places, but you have to consider cybersecurity as well, because the way it looks right now is that people create problems for themselves, and then go ahead and try and find solutions, as opposed to not making or not enabling these problems from happening in the first place. So how do you blend the two disciplines together? How do you train people in a way that will enable them to operate this extremely complex machinery in a safe and appropriate manner, and also following the correct cybersecurity procedures? So I think it's up to people like you, professors, the academia, the scientific community, to lead the charge and lead the way and address this problem. Well, yes, Lydia, let me tell you something. We have a discipline, the subject called energy independence. There are two big modules in that course dedicated to cybersecurity. Well, in that case, you need to also focus on personal data protection. That's not something our energy industry students are learning, studying. But it only takes one look into the future. Just to consider smart city systems of the future, smart house systems of the future, having access to so much sensitive data about habits of residents and the people in general. So improper security arrangements, cybersecurity arrangements, can lead to major problems and abuse, especially given the risk of the leakage and then ultimate disclosure of that very sensitive data. So students, I believe, studying smart grids today and Internet of Things today, have to also study more about data protection. and data management.
питання енергетика, але так
And,
нагадую,
and
що це теж питання безпеки
arguably,
і
this is not for the, the
допомоги
energy related disciplines to try and
вперед, і при цьому
well,
питання ось
unpack, but yeah,
безпеки
we need
економік все ж таки зараз
some sort of
відстають.
integration, between all these different subjects and disciplines and fields. Yes, absolutely, totally agree. Couldn't agree more. Thank you very much for this very important educational mission that you're on. Can I also ask you for your permission to share your slides, your presentation? Yes, absolutely, by all means.
Дякую. Мушу запитати.
I had to ask. I had to ask for your permission.
Дякую вам велике.
Yes, I mean, yeah, just I prepared it for this event, and please do share it. Hopefully, this wasn't the last event we had together. We are planning a number of workshops next year, so this discussion is only beginning, I think, and I think there's much more left to be said and discussed. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, this is something we've been working on for 6 years now. No, I mean, 10 years in total. Yeah, starting 2012. And we're still on it. So yeah, it'll take us quite a bit longer. So yeah, we're gonna let you go. We know you need to run. So thank you very much.